Welcome to Heartcast, a podcast of Hospice of the Red River Valley. I'm your host, Dave Nillis. Kristen Wenzel is our grief specialist with Hospice of the Red River Valley. Kristen, thank you for joining us today.
Glad to be here.
Kristen, Father's Day is coming up. What can grief look like around Father's Day?
With any kind of loss and grief that we deal with, grief looks very different to each person. And I feel like it's really important to understand that your grief might look very different from someone else's. Grief can look like happiness. It can look like being sad, withdrawn, sort of have an ability of avoidance, like not wanting to deal with that day in general. And also we can look at the opposite side of grief. For some people, it's going to be honoring their person, making sure that they reach out to other people that might be affected by these kinds of losses. So grief, as in general grief around special holidays and things like that, it does look very different. And so we have to acknowledge that grief will be different and can be different, and to not try to judge and look what other people have to do. I think that's one of the key points that I always talk about when we talk about grief is people's grief might look different, but we have to accept it and let people do what they need to do. So that's part of the process.
What are some tips for people to manage grief around a holiday such as this one?
Well, one of the things that I think is important to talk about first is to look at who are those father figures in your life? Who are the people and what is the process that you are going through in regards to kind of pinpointing who that loss is? It might be your father. It might be somebody who treated you like a father. It might be the fact that you are a father yourself and you are working through some of those kinds of things, or you can't be a father. It's also somebody who possibly you had a difficult relationship with your father. So when you look at the word father, it's very different than any other person because a father can be so many things to people. So I think that's the place we have to start when we're talking about ways that you can handle your grief. Tips to managing your grief on Father's Day could be as simple as making sure that you honor the person who was a father figure in your life or your own ability to be a father. Honor those and take advantage of the fact that there are people in our life that are very important to us and we want to honor them and respect them and show them that they love us. If your father has died, that takes on a different role. You're going to possibly do something like, how do you want to spend that day? Do you want to spend it alone or do you want to spend it with family? Do you want to include other people in your celebration of your person? Do you want to do something special? Do you want to go out and plant a tree? Do you want to go take a hike? Whatever you used to do with your father is a good time to maybe do that again. Take time for yourself or go out and enjoy your own family and your children, however you want to manage that. The other thing to think about is the people in our lives that maybe also miss our dad or our father, whoever that person may be. Reach out to them, give a call to your dad's best friend or give a call to a friend of yours who knows, maybe you have a friend who lost a child. Make a point to reach out to them. Just do those kinds of things that allow you to honor or respect or do whatever it is that you're feeling with your parent and kind of go forward with that.
Kristen, what if it was a complicated relationship?
That brings on sort of an extra level of angst, I think, for people is when your parent may still be alive and you may have a complicated relationship with your father. So how do you kind of wrap your brain around that? Or your father has died and the relationship was complicated. The reality of the life that we live is that not everybody in our life is good. And we have to acknowledge to ourselves, be okay with the fact that maybe you aren't so sad. Maybe you aren't having some of those feelings that everybody else is feeling when they have a loss of a parent or they have a relationship with their parent that has changed. I go back to giving yourself some grace, having acceptance, allowing yourself to show gratitude to the people that maybe did have a good part in your life. If your father maybe wasn't a great point in your life, but you have somebody else. Complicated relationships are just that. They're very complicated. So the feelings and emotions and everything that comes along with it add to that complication. So try not to be judging yourself. Try not to beat yourself up. Try to do the best you can and enjoy the day in any way that you can is going to be the most important.
What are some ways that someone can honor their father or father figure on the Father's Day?
I like that question because I think it's important that you add the father figure, because I think there's so many options for us with men in our lives that are important to us. Remember them by cooking a special meal. Remember them by taking flowers to the gravesite if your parent has died. Was there a place that they really enjoyed that you could make a donation to? Is there a way that you can do something special with your children that was something that you and your dad did for many years? I think that's a great idea, because honoring those traditions and things that we did with our fathers are so important as we move forward. I think that this is a tough time. I think that it's a difficult time for some. It doesn't have to be if you don't allow it. Allow yourself to feel whatever it is you're going to feel, but then also live your day to the fullest, and know that we are here to offer support if you should need it. We have a great grief support department at Hospice of the Red River Valley, and we're willing to hear and listen to anything that you might need us for. Feel free to give us a call if there's anything that you need, and we can sure help in any way we can.
Thank you for listening to Heartcast. For past episodes and more information about Hospice of the Red River Valley, visit hrrv.org.